Supergirl. Supergirl is one of our favorite fandoms at Back Issues. She has had a convoluted history within the DC universe, so it is time to show her character some love. Supergirl first arrived in the comic book medium as Superman's cousin, Kara Zor-El. She is one of the last survivors of Krypton. Her first appearance is in Action Comics number 252 on May of 1959, drawn by Al Plastino and written by legendary writer Otto Binder, who is also credited for creating DC Comics' female counterpart of Captain Marvel/Shazam, Mary Marvel. In terms of Supergirl's origin story, she was born and raised on Argo City, which was a part of Krypton that survived its demise during the original Superman mythos. This would later be changed through various retcons. Kara would eventually land on Earth, where she would meet her cousin and start a career as a superhero, adopting the secret identity of Linda Lee. In Action Comics number 279, in July of 1961, she would be adopted by Fred and Edna Danvers, calling herself Linda Lee Danvers for many decades. Supergirl's character would enjoy many adventures with Superman, in the latter's title book and Action Comics. In the early 70s, she would have a crack at her own book, which wouldn't last beyond 10 issues. In 1974, her book merged with Jimmy Olsen's and Lois Lane's, turning into the Superman family book, which lasted from issue 164 to 222. Supergirl had another chance at a solo title in the early 80s, The Daring New Adventures of Supergirl, which sadly for the fandom hasn't been reprinted by DC in recent years, which lasted 13 issues, and a second volume of her first title, which went from issue 14 to 23. In 1985, and despite having her own movie the previous year, starring Helen Slater as the title character, the event Crisis on Infinite Earths, written by Marv Wolfman and drawn by the amazing George Perez, was a massive line reboot of the entire DC multiverse, leading to the creation of just one universe in which Kara would die fighting against the main villain of the story, the Anti-Monitor. The cover of Superman holding his cousin's deceased body has become one of the most iconic images in the history of comic books. The reason behind Supergirl's death was because DC wanted to simplify Superman's mythology and make him the actual last survivor of Krypton. A few years after the death of the original Supergirl, however, due to wide fan requests, then-current Superman writer and artist John Byrne decided to create Matrix, a female alien that could shapeshift. She was created in a pocket dimension to deal with many Kryptonian villains like General Zod, who was trapped in the Phantom Zone. Superman Volume 2, Number 16, April 1988. Matrix would eventually find herself on Earth and be accepted by Superman and his parents, Jonathan and Martha Kent, who took her in and gave her a home. During the early 90s, she was romantically involved with Lex Luthor, who at the time was pretending to be his own son and pretending to be dead. It's comics. It's complicated. Matrix would enjoy a very good Supergirl run with writer Peter David, perhaps the best in the character's long history, and the character lasted well in the DC universe until the events of Superman Batman number 8 in 2004, where writer Jeff Loeb brought Kara back and established her once again as the Girl of Steel in the DC pantheon. DC had a major line reboot once again in 2011 with the launch of the New 52, and Kara's origin remained very similar. However, she was more temperamental and resistant to human culture, often leading to her having anger issues and even going as far as becoming a Red Lantern during her New 52 run, the Red Lanterns being primarily driven by rage or anger. With writer Jeff Johns helming the Rebirth relaunch all across the DC line in 2016, Supergirl became much like her original version and more in line to what was currently going on with the character in the CW series, but without reaching the level of leadership that Kara has enjoyed in that series. Regardless, Supergirl is a fundamental part of the Superman mythos, a very fascinating character, and definitely worth our further exploration.